Hi everyone, my name is Alex, and today I'm going to be introducing you to the Productions Possibilities Curve. So what is a Production Possibilities Curve? A Production Possibilities Curve, or PPC, is a model that illustrates the trade-offs that a company makes when it's deciding to choose whether or not they should produce one product or another product. Now, before we actually get into explaining what a PPC looks like and what it represents, the first thing that we should go over is some assumptions that the PPC makes. The first assumption is that only two goods are being produced by the company. The second assumption is that there is a full employment by the company of all of its available resources that it has. The third assumption is that the company has fixed resources, or its resources aren't changing. And the final assumption is that it's using fixed or not changing technology to produce the products that it is making. So with that being said, let's get into the actual PPC and what it represents. So let's first consider a company that creates both tacos and burritos. So something like Taco Bell, for example. Before we draw the actual curve, this is a possible productions possibilities table that you can use to represent what the situation is and what the company is producing and what sort of trade-offs that it's making depending on what they want to produce, whether or not they want to produce tacos or whether or not they want to produce burritos. This table represents our production possibilities. In other words, what the company can produce. So the company, for example, can produce 4 tacos and 0 burritos. They could produce 2 tacos and 2 burritos, and etc. So let's look at this table and go a little bit further into what we mean by a trade-off or an opportunity cost. So, for example, what is the opportunity cost of moving from point A to point B? Well, you get to make an additional burrito, but you have to give up 1 taco. So that 1 taco would be the opportunity cost, the thing that you're trading off in terms of getting another additional burrito. What about C to B? Well, you make an additional taco, but now you also have to give up a burrito. So that would be your cost, which is 1 burrito. This table represents a constant opportunity cost. You're always giving up the same amount if you make one product or the other. In this case, if you make 1 burrito, you'd give up 1 taco, and if you're making 1 taco, you'd always constantly give up 1 burrito. The reason for this is because resources are easily adaptable between different products. So making a taco versus making a burrito probably, for example, might involve the same ingredients. So there's not a huge amount of variability in terms of the trade-offs that you're making. Now, let's take all the data that we have in that table and let's plot it onto a graph. As you can see, this is the productions possibility curve. And it's worth pointing out that whenever you have a constant opportunity cost, the productions possibility curve is always going to be in a straight line. So now let's go over a second example. Let's go over a company that produces cell phones and drones. Here is the productions possibilities table that you can use to represent this company and its trade-offs. So now let's go over that table. What's the opportunity cost in terms of moving from point A to point B? Well, you would make an additional drone, but your opportunity cost would be 1 phone. What about B to C? You make another drone, but this time you have to give up 3 phones. How about D to E? This time, your opportunity cost is a whopping 7 phones, even though you're still making 1 drone. This company would represent the law of increasing opportunity cost. As you produce more of one good, the opportunity cost is going to increase. In this case, producing more drones would make the increased opportunity cost of the amount of phones that you give up larger and larger as more and more drones are being produced. The reason for this is because resources are not easily adaptable between 2 products. Now let's go ahead and plot this on a PPC. As you can see, in this time, it's not a straight line. The PPC instead is a concave PPC. It sort of curves out. And the reason for that is because this time there's increasing opportunity costs. So if a company were to produce at any of the points along the line or along the curve, for example, point A or point C, then that company would be efficient with their resources. They'd be using their resources to the fullest potential. What if they were producing inside of the curve? So, for example, point E in this case. Well, in that case, the company would be inefficient. They aren't using their resources to the maximum amount that they could be using those resources to. Finally, what if the company is producing at point F, for example, outside of the curve? Well, that would actually be impossible, something called unattainable, which is that you can't actually attain that because of the fact that you don't have enough resources to achieve those goals in the first place.